So one of the most important things when scaling any business is knowing who your dream customer is. So if you're not speaking to the right person, you're not going to make money, right? So think about it. If you opened a steak restaurant and you've got a whole town full of vegetarians, it's probably not going to do great, right? So you need to figure out who is your dream customer. So I'm going to walk you through in this video how to find a dream customer, what your dream customer is, and then how to find it, what that looks like, and all the information you need to know about your dream customer. So firstly, what is a dream customer? Well, to find a dream customer, here's what you need is the problem fit, right? So when we say problem fit is what is the problem that you help solve? And does that person actually have that problem? Because if they don't have that problem, it's not going to be a good fit, right? So it's the kind of thing, hey, I'm hungry and I really want a great steak. And it's like, well, we only do vegetarian food, sorry, right? That's not going to work out great. Benefit alignment. So does the benefit that you provide match to what benefit they want? So they might have the problem, but are you selling the specific benefit as well that they want? The next one is market size. So if you're like, hey, my target audience is people in Alaska that live in an igloo and they are 35 and they have 7 kids and they like Manchester United, right? The market size for that is probably one person. I don't know if there's even one person in Alaska who lives in an igloo, right? And I don't know if people in Alaska live in an igloo either. That being said, if your market size is too small, it's not going to work, right? So then the other thing you've got as well is the capacity to purchase. So you might have a big market size. So like, for example, let's say I was targeting the whole of India. But if I'm selling something that's like $20,000 and there's only a smaller percentage of that population actually can afford that $20,000, and like I'm selling a high ticket offer, and then the average wage in India is significantly lower than $20,000, someone's not going to give me every single dollar that they have, right, that they've ever saved in their whole life to buy my high ticket program, because like you never want to be taking someone's last dollar, right? So they need the capacity to purchase. So dream customer equals problem fit times benefit alignment times market size times capacity to purchase. So if you have all those things, you will find a dream customer. So once you've found your dream customer, and we'll talk about a little bit more about like where to find them and all that kind of stuff as we go through this video. But once you've found them, here's the things you need to know about them. Like, what's their name, right? So when we say what's the name, is you want to put an actual persona on top. If you look at Amazon, Jeff Bezos always used to have an empty chair in the meeting. And like originally people would come in and go, what's that empty chair for? And what it actually was him saying, this is the chair of the customer. So every decision that they made was about the customer. And if you don't put a specific name on your customer, then they're not real, right? So we had this when we sold bridesmaids dresses. We had a Samantha dress. I think we had a Emma dress and then a Sarah dress. Oh, and here's what was interesting is our best-selling dress, which was the Samantha dress. Also, we made that on the name of our avatar. And what happened is not just because of the dress sales, but also just because that was our avatar. Naturally, we started to attract more of these people, right, into our community that were called Samantha. How weird is that, right? And this was before we'd even called it the Samantha dress. We actually called it that afterwards because we were getting so many Samanthas in the group. So we just went, what's the most popular name in our group? And then started calling the dresses those things. And then the next thing is age. So we don't go, okay, so we help people from 25 to 45. You want to be specific. So we help Samantha, she's 37, right? She's female. Is she married? Is she not married? Right? Marital status. Have they got kids? Has she got one kid, two kids? If she got kids, how old are the kids? Are they grown up? Are they different ages? Is it a girl? Is it a boy? Is it one of each? Right? Location. Where are they located? Where are they from? So, like, if you were to look at your ideal dream customer, remember market size, capacity to purchase, benefit alignment, and problem fit, right? If someone's ticking every single one of those boxes, where do they live? Right? Do they live in California or Texas or New York, right? Some of the places where parts of it are more expensive to live. Or they live like, parts of the UK, do they live like on a lower economic area? Like, what kind of location do they live in? Where is your ideal person? What income level are they at? So think about that. Like, what is their income level right now from a personal perspective, but also what's their income level from a business perspective? So if you're selling business to business, you want to figure out, like, well, what's the size of the company that they own? Or what is their personal income if you're selling business to consumer? So, for example, if you look at Netflix, like, Netflix built their pricing model really around like 1% of someone's average annual income, because their market is so wide. They'd like look at the average income level, right? And then base the 1% of that, because people will give 1% of their, I say annual income, monthly income, 1% of their monthly income in order to get extra entertainment and stuff like that, right? If you start asking for 10% of someone's salary, that's a lot bigger ask. And if you're asking for 10% of their annual salary, right, even more so. And then ethnicity, the education level, like, are they college educated? Have they been to university? Like, where are they at? Are they a homeowner? Do they own their own home? Do they rent? Do they still live with their parents? What kind of size house have they got? Have they got a mansion? Do they live? We talked about location, like what neighborhood do they live in? All those kind of questions. And then once they're all the demographics, right? Then we also, when you find a dream customer, you need to focus on the psychographics as well. So what are their values? What are their core values? If you were to say, what are the top 3 values of my dream customer, what would that look like? What is their lifestyle like? Like, where do they hang out? What do they do for fun on a daily basis? What do they do for fun on a weekly basis? Where do they go on holiday? What interests have they got in general? And what are their attitudes around things? So values is one thing. So if you look at values, it's kind of like one of my core values is commitment, right? Which is ironic because I'm a very much a quick start kind of person. And if you look at my Colby assessment, if you've ever done one of those, my follow through is quite low, which means kind of like I'm like big idea person, get it up and running, and then go on to the next thing. However, I have a commitment process of value of follow through, and my wife has that as well, right? So it's probably one of the reasons we've been together 17 years. And I know maybe I don't look old enough to have been with someone for 17 years. We got together at 16, right? So I've actually been with my wife over half my life now because I've got that commitment value. Now, if someone was being a divorce lawyer, right, and figuring out their dream customer, I'm not going to be their dream customer, am I? Because I'm likely to stay with my wife for the rest of my life, right? And maybe beyond the way technology is going, right? And then personality traits, like what tendencies do they have? Is that person more extrovert, more introvert? Like, how do they think about the world, right? How do they show up to the world? It's like, if you were to just describe that person and put them in the room right now, what kind of personality would they have? What opinions do they have on things? And the opinions and attitudes are a similar kind of thing. Opinions are a little bit more granular, right? So attitudes are kind of like what the overarching things of like how you view the world. Opinions are what you have about each one of those views. And then behavioral style, like, is that person more passive, more aggressive, right? Those kind of things. And then are they more kind of reactive or proactive? Do they like to think things through first before they make a decision, or do they just like to jump in? And then media consumption. What kind of things do they consume? Are they consuming podcasts, YouTube videos, blogs? Are they consuming tabloid newspapers, right? Are they watching certain TV programs? All those kind of things. Why do you want to know all that? Because then you know where to advertise as much as who to advertise to. And then we want to focus, once you've got the demographics down of your dream customer, once you've got the psychographics down of your dream customer, then you want to focus on the towards and away from, right? So the away part is first step, long term is fears and insecurities. So what are the things that keep them up at night that they think about in the future that if they don't fix that now, it's going to have bigger consequences in the future? So if you think about things like that, right? One of the pieces there is like, well, what's going to happen to my kids when I'm gone, right? That's a long-term fear and insecurity. Like, I haven't got enough money in the bank to look after my kids. My kids, like, I haven't given my kids enough knowledge or whatever, or transfer that knowledge in order for them to stand on their own 2 feet. And what if something happened to me tomorrow? You know, all those kind of things, right? So fears and insecurities. Pains and frustrations is like, how is that affecting life right now, right? Because people run away from fears and insecurities, but they run away quicker from pains and frustrations. So think of it like this. Fears and insecurities, if you thought, hey, if I don't move house in the next 5 years, there might be a war and someone might blow up my house, right? You might have that kind of fear, right? If you're survivalist or whatever. So I need to move areas in the next 5 years, right? That's one thing. Now, that's going to maybe get me to take action, but maybe not today. However, if I'm walking down the street and I see someone behind me with a knife in the hand running at me, right? I'm going to run pretty fast. Why? Because the pain and frustration is more immediate, right? I want to avoid that pain of someone stabbing me in the back, literally, right? So short-term pains and frustrations are the thing that will grab people first, and then the fears and insecurities are what goes on top of that, right? It's kind of like layers of a sandwich, like if you imagine like a triple-decker sandwich, right? So you put in those layers on top. So firstly, the pains and frustrations will get people to take note. And then the fears and insecurities, what you call out as you go through your sales message, where they're like, that's what actually gets them to move over the line as well. So that's the away from. And then we've got the towards. So towards is goals and desires, right? And dreams and aspirations. So think about that. Which one's which? So goals and desires are short term. So like, you know, where do you want to be in the next 12 months? Where do you want to be in 30 days time, etc.? Right? Those goals and desires, like, where do you want to go on holiday this year? All those kind of things are short-term side of things. Dreams and aspirations is like the big picture life goals. And if you just focus on big picture life goals, then it won't create enough pain, right, on the other side, and it won't create enough of a gap for someone to take action. Because the one thing that gets someone to buy is this. When the pain of staying the same is greater than the pain of change, then people change. Simple as that. So I'm going to say that again. When the pain of staying the same is greater than the pain of change, people will make a change. So what that basically means is if my current circumstances are that bad that it's easy for me to go and do something else, then I'll go and do something else, right? This is why you see a lot of people when they quit their 9 to 5, quite often it's because the pain of being in that 9 to 5 is greater than the risk of starting their own thing, right? Or doing something else, or going to another job, or whatever that thing is, right? So then what we want to look at is, once we've got that towards and away from, well, what's the next layer? Well, we want to understand how they're describing those fears and insecurities, pains and frustrations, goals and desires, and dreams and aspirations. So what do? Well, we look at the conversations that they're having with their close relationships, sound bites that they're using to describe their pain, sound bites that you're using to describe situations that didn't work for them, right? So how do you find that kind of information out? Well, we're gonna go into that in just a second. But firstly, like, think about like the conversations that they're having with their spouse, right? So like if they're sitting in the kitchen having a cup of coffee and they're saying, oh, I just don't want to do this anymore. I just don't want to go through this like grind of the 9 to 5. Like they're getting in at 6 p.m. each night. The kids are already dressed, ready for bed. They've missed all those other moments, right? And then they're just talking about the heartbreak that they've got. Maybe it's the other side as well, is where the partner is saying, you keep working on this hustle on the side. It's not working. Why can't you just go and do more of the 9 to 5 stuff? Do you not care about our family, security, all that kind of stuff, right? So there's different ways of looking at both sides. And then the other side is, how do they describe their own pain right now? And how did they describe solutions that didn't work? So if you think about that, the solutions that didn't work, well, what are all the things that they've tried in the past and how do they describe those? By the way, if you're in a sales conversation, they're the things that you want to bring up because they're kind of like I kind of call them like the landmines, right? So if you've got landmines in the conversation where it's like, if you step on one of those, it's game over. So imagine you start going through the sales conversation, you say to someone, okay, cool, tell me where you're at. And they tell you where they're at. And it's like, okay, like how's that causing you pain, right? What fears and insecurities you've got around what's going to happen if you don't do anything, etc. And then they say, okay, what have you tried to do to solve that? And they say, I've done this and this and this and this, right? And then you present your solution and you say, so we can do what you just said about A, what you said about B. And they're like, I've tried that already. It doesn't work. Sales conversation's gone, right? So you need to find out what are all the things that they tried that didn't work and then offer an alternative. This is where things like unique mechanisms come in play. I'm not going to discuss in detail about that stuff today. But basically, how do you create your own unique selling proposition? How do you create something that's different from what's come before? Because that's what gets people also to take the leap of faith and make the change, is they look at it and they go, well, yeah, but this is different from what I've done before, right? That's why it makes it different. I had a call with someone yesterday. I showed them our flow map and our process of how we do things. And they said, I've actually been on call with quite a few people who do performance models and stuff like that. And your stuff is significantly more detailed, right? So we separated ourselves from the competition because we showed we had the runs on the board. Number one is we showed a ridiculous amount of social proof on our site and walked people through the sales process and of how we do what we do, right? And then number two, we showed them this flow map. It was like it broke down every step of our 9-step process and showed specifically how we solved their problems in a simple, easy to understand way, but also showing it in kind of a complex flow map as well, where it's like, look, here's what you need to do, whether you use us or not, this is what you need to do. So go ahead and do that if you want, or if not, if you want to skip that, you could just have us do it for you. So that process works really, really well because we create a unique mechanism there, and we're very, very careful to mention everything that this is all the things you need to do. And they're like, oh yeah, I've worked on my customer avatar before. Yeah, we've already got that done. It's like, okay. And then you just ask a few questions. Have you got this? Have you got that? And they're like, no, we haven't done that about it, right? So what conversations do you think they're having with the close relationships? And they're like, oh, I have never really thought about that. Oh. So it sounds like we might have an opportunity there to make those things better. So the next thing, once you've got customer, you've got the psychographics of your dream customer, you understand what pain they're going away from and then what they're working towards. You understand the language patterns that they've got, and then where do you go and find all that information, right? So forums, So, like, for example, if you were targeting mums, then you might look at like Mumsnet, right? Things like that. Social media, looking in Facebook groups, all those kind of things, looking at the comments on YouTube videos, that kind of stuff. With the rise of AI and everything else that's going on right now, it's getting easier and easier as well to scrape a lot of stuff and scrape those things cheaply and then have AI analyze that stuff to pull that data out. So before, you'd spend like 6 weeks like trying to go on all these sites and copy and paste it into a doc and then like read through it all. Now you can run a scraper and say, hey, scrape this site, pull all the stuff from it, pull all the testimonials, etc., right? Run all of those into AI and then summarize like what are the key pains and everything, and then just ask it to describe like the fears and insecurities, pains and frustrations, goals and desires, etc. Right? You can interview your customers, or like also note what happens with the non-customers that you speak to, right? So if you got in a sales conversation that didn't close, like, well, why didn't it close? What did they say on that call that you didn't acknowledge? But interviewing your customers is really, really beneficial. So what we found, we created a process for interviewing customers. And when we interview them, one of the cool things that we do there is we call, it's kind of like we peel back the layers of the onion, right? So when we're asking the questions in a very empathetic tone as well, we'll say, is it okay if we go a little bit deeper on that? And ask something that's a little bit more personal. And they're usually like, yeah, that's fine. It's like, so what was it about that first got you to buy? And then when they tell you what that is, that's usually not the root of it, right? They tell you the surface level answer. Then you start asking a little bit more like, how did that affect you and your family, right? How did that affect you internally? How did that make you feel, etc.? Where does that come from? So you start to find out all these hidden things underneath. And I've done some of these interviews sometimes, and people have cried on the interviews, and that's okay. It wasn't a cry because like we're really upset them in terms of being aggressive or anything like that. It's just we asked questions and we got to the deep emotional response. And once you have that deep emotional response, guess what? You can use it in your marketing. How cool is that? Right? Competitor analysis. If you don't have a lot of customers right now in your earlier stage, go and have a look at your top 3 competitors, find out who they are, have a look at those, go and look on their site, look at all their testimonials, and how did those people explain what was the pain before, right? Why did they decide to buy? What was that point where they decided to buy? And then how is life different for them? So you're looking for themes and patterns. That's what you want, themes and patterns. And then surveying your customers, right? Just like a 3-question survey. Hey, like, what stopped you from buying or made you buy, right? And then now, how is life different? Surveying the non-buyers, external studies as well. There's lots of data studies out there and things like that where you can pull some of those data and stats from, or you could like hire someone to do an external study. Focus groups where you could go, hey guys, I'm getting a group of like 5-10 people together, put that together, and then ask them the questions. Or data segmentation. So look at all your current data pieces. Like, for example, especially when you look at the demographics, if you're running Facebook ads or Google ads or whatever, like break it down by country, age, gender, all those kind of things. And like, if you notice, hey, our cost to acquire a customer is significantly lower with 30 to 41 year olds or whatever that age range is, and you notice actually, especially for males in that age range, then guess what? Have a look then at your avatar of going, how can I create a specific message for that particular avatar? Because something's already working, but if you could take that even further and make it even more to that specific avatar, that's where you open up new markets, because you break down like micro avatars, right? Micro dream customers. So how do you use this? Once you put it all together, like what do you actually do with it? Well, number 1, put it up on the wall. So easy thing to do, get your dream customer, stick them up on the wall. So that's got a picture of them. Go on Google or whatever, or nowadays, like, just type in the description of that person and have AI pop it out. You can use Mid-Journey, Chat GPT, like whatever you want. But just say, like, I want a portrait headshot of this person described as this, and it'll give you the picture of that person, right? Then it's always unique. Reference that person in meetings. Remember, we talked about Jeff Bezos with the empty chair. Then you can do that process. Create an AI avatar that you can ask questions to. This is a pretty cool way of doing it. So this is something we've done, is you take all the avatar information, put that and build it into a chatbot and say, I want you to act as this person, and I'm going to ask you some questions. And then you start asking them as they are the avatar. And then updating the messaging, right? Using it through the whole sales process, whether it be the ads, the landing pages, the sales conversations, everything else in between. And using that to maximize those sales over time. So that's really a full step-by-step guide. Just to recap everything that we've gone through there is, number one, what you want to do is identify who is your dream customer. So dream customer needs to be problem fit times benefit alignment times market size times capacity to purchase equals your dream customer. And then you want to figure out your demographics, your psychographics. What are they running away from? And then what are they working towards? What are the language patterns they're using, describing those things? And then go and do the research to find all those things, and then put it up on the wall, reference it in meetings, create a AI avatar that you can ask questions to, and then update your messaging as you get that feedback from the market of what's working and what isn't, as much as possible. So enjoy that process. Drop me messages in the comments what questions you've got about that. Here to help and support as much as possible, and like and subscribe for some more.